Hi guys, welcome to the Class's Corner. I'm Kat, and this week I'm going to be talking about Odysseus. Now, me and Odysseus go way back, and I probably have a very special place in my heart for Odysseus because I did my undergraduate dissertation on Odysseus in pop culture, so I know Odysseus quite well. And in that dissertation, I did different chapters on how Odysseus was represented in film, in comic books, and in literature. And I felt like I wanted to recreate that on this series because, again, Odysseus has a special place in my heart, and I feel like my perspective on Odysseus has grown since I did my undergraduate dissertation, so I wanted to do it on this platform. I also might chuck Odysseus in television in there, so it'll be I'll do a series of videos on Odysseus in film, Odysseus in books, and Odysseus in comic books, and maybe a few TV stuff as well. But before I can do that, I wanted to do this video, which is on Odysseus in character. So the key points about Odysseus, the things that I feel are really important to the character, and if you're adapting that character, if anyone's adapting that character, what they should include in that adaptation, or at least take into consideration. Now, if you don't know who Odysseus is an ancient Greek hero who was involved in the conflict that was the Trojan War. So basically he went off to the Trojan War. He was a prince of Ithaca, married to a woman called Penelope, which is Helen's cousin, by the by, and he was drafted into the conflict in the Trojan War, and then after the Trojan War he took 10 years to get back home. So his poem, the Odyssey, the name Odyssey has become synonymous with long and perilous journeys because of his long and perilous journey to get back home. So he is also represented in tragedies, so sort of 5th, 4th century Athenian tragedies about the Trojan War, and he's kind of mentioned in the Roman epic, the Aeneid, a little bit. So what do I feel are the key points of Odysseus' character? Well, first off, Odysseus is cunning. That, I feel, is the really important key point of his personality. Odysseus is cunning. Odysseus is tricky. He is very intelligent, and I think that's some way that people like to focus on the intelligence, but it's not just being smart. He is cunning. He will trick people. He will disguise himself. He will lie. He will present an image that will change the situation to his advantage. He's a lot more like trickster archetypes, like even something like Loki from Norse mythology, than maybe what people might think that other Greek heroes are like. So Odysseus is tricky. A key word in ancient Greek that is used to describe him is the word metis, and that's the name of Athena's mother, the Titan who Zeus ate to make Athena. I know Greek mythology is weird, but go with me. And she was a Titan of cunningness as well, and that's why Athena quite likes Odysseus, because he embodies that feeling of cunningness. And the word metis also has an interesting etymological aspect, which is it connects to octopi, that the ancient Greeks thought they were very cunning because they could get out of nets. So yeah, you can imagine Odysseus as this sort of slippery character who can get out of any situation using his words, very smart, quick-witted in terms of how he speaks, but also just in terms of trying to get himself out of situations. There's also the cunningness of Odysseus is also one of the reasons why different ancient people viewed him differently as time went on, because you say in the epic poems, the Iliad and the Odyssey, Odysseus' cunning is promoted as this good thing. It makes him second only to the best of the Greeks, which is Achilles. He becomes the best of the Greeks after Achilles dies, and it's a really good quality, his cunningness. But the further on you get, like the 5th century, 4th century Athenians were a bit more iffy about it, but still ultimately holding him up as a good Greek. But then when you get to the Romans, they were like, no, this is bad. Cunningness is it's kind of cowardice, and they don't particularly see Odysseus, or Ulysses as they call him, as a particularly good figure. They kind of villainize him a bit. So the perception of Odysseus changes. So In an adaptation, whether the creators want to see his cunningness as a good thing or a bad thing, that has ancient precedence. But as long as they represent his cunningness, that's all I care about, because he's cunning. Yeah. Also then, second most important thing I feel about Odysseus' character is his homecoming. The whole point of the Odyssey is that Odysseus wants to get back home to Ithaca. He has been travelling around, he's gone to the Trojan War, so he's fulfilled his duty as a man, as an ancient Greek man, and he's gained honour in the war, and that's fine, but he needs to get back home. And I feel that lots of people might represent his wanting to get back home, his need to get back home as sort of, oh, he misses his wife, he misses his family, oh, you know, we all feel homesick, but it's more than that. It's not just homesickness. Odysseus wants to get back home because Ithaca is where he is himself, and that's where he is a man. The idea of ancient Greek heroes as men tied to their community and tied to their status in community is quite a big part of the epic poems, and basically Odysseus wants to get back home so he reclaims his status as a man. Ithaca is where he is who he is. If he is not in Ithaca, Odysseus is not himself. So he is not in civilization, and that's a big point of the Odyssey, where he's travelling around and he sees all these different people. It just shows that he's not in society anymore, and he doesn't have the standing that he feels he should do as an ancient Greek prince, and who he is as a man. So it's a very masculine thing, and basically he needs to get back home. Another ancient word to describe this is nostos, and nostos means homecoming, and is a very important concept to the Greeks. Home is where they are who they are, and Odysseus gets that, needs to get that. In fact, nostos is actually a very important part of most of the Greek heroes interested in Troy. For example, Agamemnon doesn't get his nostos because he is killed. Menelaus does. Menelaus does get home. Achilles obviously never gets home because he dies. It's the ancient Greeks getting home is kind of important. It's also important to the Romans. Again, there in the Roman epic, the Aeneid, Aeneas has to create a home. So in the way there is also a nostos there, and the bits in the Iliad where he's travelling, the Aeneid, when Aeneas is trying to go around and find a home, is described as very much like the Odyssey. So Odysseus and homecoming is a big thing, and hopefully different adaptations, and I say hopefully, I do know more about it than you think, but in adaptations, Odysseus' homecoming should be so important. Even if it's not the Odyssey, which most representations of Odysseus is in adaptations of the Odyssey, but if you're doing the Odyssey, you need to stress that homecoming. He needs to get home. Then other aspects which I feel are less important, I feel like the cunningness and the homecoming are the most important aspects of Odysseus' character, just in my opinion. But also there are other aspects which creators need to take into account. Moreover, the societal double standard, which means Odysseus can sleep with people and Penelope can't. Yeah, that also needs to be brought in. Not getting onto that yet, that's a topic for a different video. Also Telemachus, Odysseus' son, his character is a big part of the Odyssey. He gets big chunks of the Odyssey, and while Odysseus' story is a homecoming, Telemachus's is more, probably more familiar to a modern audience because we would sort of see it as a typical coming of age story. So Telemachus also has a story in there, which you don't often see. So there's Telemachus. Also, I think I'm probably one of the few people who would actually care what Odysseus looks like in adaptations, and that's something I'm going to be talking about, because Odysseus actually does get a fair bit of physical description in the Iliad and somewhat in the Odyssey, but mostly in the Iliad. He is described by Helen of Troy. Yeah, he's described by Helen as a foot shorter than Agamemnon, and he is also barrel-chested, and he doesn't really look like the other Greeks at Troy. So Odysseus is a bit weird looking, so there should be something there with how he looks. Kind of shows that there is an aspect of Odysseus' character, kind of, is that he is very Greek, but he is also kind of not like the other Greeks. So I'll discuss that more in later videos, but Odysseus is a bit weird, so I kind of feel like Odysseus' physical appearance should kind of represent that. He also is, he should be short, barrel-chested. Different actors can portray that differently. I'm not that fussed on it. But also, more importantly than that, Odysseus should be of an accurate age. Like, Odysseus can't be just some young guy, because he wasn't the youngest man at Troy, and he wasn't the oldest. God, that was Nestor. But he wasn't the youngest man at Troy, and then it takes 10 years for Troy to finish up, so the war takes 10 years, and then he gets home another 10 years, so he should at least be in his very late 40s or to mid 50s by the time the end of the Odyssey rolls around, and I care about that, but not everyone else would, but that's just my thing. So that's basically what I feel very quickly about Odysseus' character. The main points, 2 main points, and like a couple of other things. And I'll probably get more into detail of how those characteristics really work in my following videos. So I will be back next week with more talking about Odysseus, and I will see you guys then. Bye. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. So yeah, bye guys.